Train the muscles, not the joints. Check one, two, check one, two. So welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the order of exercises and how that can sometimes make a difference in how you do an exercise or whether you do an exercise period. And I'm going to explain through this one example with, say, bicep training, right? So when I train biceps, usually when I curl the weight, if I come all the way up like this, I do involve some of the shoulders, like most people. There's a little bit of front delt that's involved, and there is some bicep involved as well. But for me, I found that when I do barbell curl and I bring up the weight too far, what happens is that my delt hits failure before my biceps. Now, why is this a problem? Well, the whole point of training biceps is to make sure the biceps hit failure first before the delts do. You want them to be the weak link in the exercise, right? So for this reason, I usually keep the elbows back and curl like this, right? Like most people teach you, right? To make sure the biceps hit failure first. So it's about performing the exercise with where you feel it. Not about doing it just correctly based on what somebody says, because sometimes you do it correctly based on what somebody says, and basically then you start hitting a totally different muscle group than you want, right? So I always got ridiculed in the gym a long time ago because I kept the elbows back a lot of times and would just curl like this. And people are like, why aren't you going all the way up? Well, I said, well, because I felt my delts. Once I started going here and then started doing this a lot, I started feeling the delts too much, right? So I kept the elbows back and doing this. And sometimes there'd be a little jerk emotion at the bottom, but I'd get more weight and be able to squeeze that bicep, right? And because I could do that, I was keeping tension on the part that I wanted to hit, and then I ended up developing some pretty good biceps from it. That said though, there is some missing range of motion that you never get if you never bring those elbows forward a tiny bit, right? So I'm thinking outside the box here. So this is just a general sort of example, but the bottom line is that if you bring the elbows forward, you are hitting a different part of the bicep, or you're causing a contraction in the different head of the bicep, right? So how do we get around this? How do you get around this specific problem? Well, here's the secret trick. First, you do an exercise that hits the main body or the main head of the bicep. Say it's incline curl, or say it's your barbell curl, but keeping the elbows back. So you basically make sure that whatever exercise you're gonna do, you do the range of motion and the technique that ensures that that head mainly hits failure first, right? First, you hit failure in the biceps, or at least you fatigue it or exhaust it. It's like a pre-exhaust method. Then, after you have ensured that the bicep has hit failure, then you may start to bring the biceps through a larger range of motion, or bring the elbows a little bit forward so you get that extra squeeze of that head that usually isn't challenged because the shoulder is hitting failure first. But now, because the biceps have already hit fatigue, you have ensured that the biceps will hit failure even though you're bringing those elbows forward and including the delts a little bit. So yes, the delts are getting a bit of a workout, but the biceps will hit failure first in this case because they're already fatigued. So that is one example of how your technique may change depending on whether your muscle is exhausted or not, in order to hit that extra range of motion and ensure that the chest or the bicep or the tricep or whatever it is hits failure first. Now, of course, this advice doesn't supersede a range of motion that is correct for your body, right? If you find a range of motion wrecks your body or hurts your joints or something like that, I never want you to go there. I never want you to start doing, upright rows with the arms internally rotated if this kills your shoulders or anything, just because it's something you want to try in your workout. If it's hurting your shoulders, then don't do it. But like I said, if you're having trouble hitting a certain part of the muscle, or during some exercises that muscle is not hitting failure, it doesn't hurt to go with an exercise that you know that muscle will hit failure first, and then use that other technique that still hits a different part of the muscle, but usually another body part fatigues. You could apply this in chest training, right? So people do the pre-exhaust principle when it comes down to they do flies first, or they do cable crossovers first, or they do something where they know their chest is hitting failure first, and then they'll go to bench press or inclines to make sure they hit a deeper level of failure in the chest, because they know, because the chest has already hit fatigue, that those exercises that are usually very delt heavy or very tricep heavy, now the chest is going to hit failure first because it's already hit exhaustion. Now, that said, some chest exercises, maybe certain ranges of motion you don't do. Like say at the top part, you find your triceps always give out first. Well, if your chest is fatigued, then maybe in this case, once the chest is already fatigued, then maybe that top portion will actually get that greater squeeze for your chest, and you might hit a deeper level of failure in the chest. And the triceps, because they're fresh, they don't hit failure, but the chest is just totally getting exhausted or overkilled. So this might produce a different result for you. So yeah, sometimes you'll become your own worst hypocrite. You'll change the technique based on whether your muscle is exhausted or whether it's not. So anyway, I hope this helps you out in your training. Thanks a lot for watching. And if you need to get hold of me, just go to naturalgallantbodybuilding.com, and take care for now. And thanks to the Patreon supporters, because these guys are the only ones making this channel possible for you. So thanks, and of course you, because you're watching this stuff. So I have to make it. If you watch the videos and you share them, I have to make videos. That's what I do. Mountain.